Why is the true Gyro-Cut a really good product and this one, this copycat from China, not a successful product? And the reason is the way these are made. The first and main reason is that this particular product is supported by bearings both here and at the top. So you've got two bearings, and that means that this blade is perfectly supported, and if you feel it, you can feel that it both rotates very easily and consistently, but it also doesn't move at all. Whereas this one has a single bearing up in the front here, but the top is just sitting in a piece of plastic. And so this blade, I can make it wobble a little bit. You can sort of see that. And because of that, when you're trying to turn it, you're gonna get more friction. It's gonna be more difficult to turn, and that's exactly what we see. It doesn't rotate the way you need it to cut as effortlessly as this one does. Now, the other piece that is a little bit more difficult to see, but even just as important, is the way that this blade is made. This is a hardened steel. It's got extra carbide in it, so it's a harder steel, and this is mild steel. Secondly, this one is precision machine ground, whereas this one I think is probably done by hand. And you can look at the differences. First of all, if you look at this blade very, very closely, you'll see that the blade, the point of the blade is right on the center line of the shaft and in between the two bearings. And so that allows this to float and rotate very easily, even while you're applying pressure during the cut. So if I'm pressing here, it'll rotate even though I am pressing down. That's really important. Secondly, the blade itself is just better. I mentioned the hardened steel before. The blade is right there cut on the center. If you look at the blade angles, they're sharp. That's a very narrow angle going up to the top, and both of them are consistent on either side. If you look at the blade from this angle, you can also see that that blade is perfectly straight. If I put it against the straight edge, you will see that that is perfectly straight. It's not bowed. Finally, if you look at the ground surfaces, it's very, very smooth, which meant when this was ground, it was held in place firmly. The pressure against the grinding wheel was precise and consistent, and it ground well. This blade is exactly the opposite in almost every respect. So first of all, this angle here is completely different from the angle on the other side, so it's not consistent. It wasn't done the same way. I'm not even sure what they were trying to do. Clearly, so it was not held in a precision manner. When you look at it from this side, you can see that it actually is bent. So they didn't do nearly as good a job that way. And with these broader angles, you're not really coming up to anywhere as near a consistent point. If you look at it this way, it's bowed. It's like a little bow like this. And if you look at it very, very closely, you can see that the edge it looks like the top of a mountaintop. It's all rugged. Some of it's bent this way, some of it's bent that way. That's an impact of the steel being milder, but also the point of the grind or the blade of the grind was not done consistently. And if you look at this face here, it looks like it's got little waves. That's called chatter, and that's because when they applied this to the grinding wheel, they didn't have a consistent force and it sort of bounced a little bit, and you get that chatter. What this basically means though, the difference between this is precision, mean ground, this is a tool, this was not done any of that the same way, and it's not a tool, it's a toy, and this particular toy does not work.